Call the meeting to order. This is the November 18, 2014 meeting of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Fairfield. First item on the agenda, the meeting minutes of October 28, 2014. Motion to approve by Commissioner Jacobson.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Alessi. Everybody have a... who's sitting in for Joan? Jackie. All right. You were here. Okay, so you're in for Anthony, you're in for Joan. You guys are both here on the 28th, right? Okay. All right. Does everybody have a copy? All good? Ready to vote? No changes, no questions? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are adopted unanimously. Next item is to go into closed executive session for a discussion of pending litigation, 893 Sasko Hill Road. We'll stand in recess.
I'll make the motion to go into closed.
Motion to go into closed executive session by Commissioner Alessi, second by Commissioner Barretts. Any comments, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? We're in closed executive session. Call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is new application for recommendation to public hearing, 1 and 5 Commerce Drive, special exception and coastal site plan application of 1 Commerce Drive LLC pertaining to an automobile dealership in a designed industrial district.
Okay, this is a fairly uniquely configured property in that a portion of it is in the town of Fairfield and a portion of it is in the city of Bridgeport. This is the former Connecticut Limousine property on the far end of Commerce Drive. There's a Jaguar Land Rover dealership looking to come in there. So this is a special exception, a coastal site plan application for the Fairfield. You'll see the whole site plan, but only a portion of it's in Fairfield, and they need to make the same application also to the city of Bridgeport, but this is to the Fairfield piece.
Make a motion to move the public hearing.
Motion to move the public hearing by Commissioner Alessi.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jacobson. Any discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Move to public hearing unanimously. Next item is old business. First is zoning regulation amendment, application of 85 Pond Mill LLC to amend section 21.2 regarding farmers markets in the design industrial district. Public hearing 10/28/14, expires 1/1/15. Wagner, Alessi, Barretts, Calabrese, Jacobson, Kennelly, Coleman, and Corcoran and Francis.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, again, what the proposed application would do is add a section 21-213 to our industrial zone regulations, and that amendment would read, farmers markets provided that they are open seasonally and during limited hours only and are operated by an existing food-related business located within 100 feet of the proposed farmer market location. Now, if the commission was to approve this amendment, the process to establish the farmer's market would be a zoning compliance subject to our section 25 requirements. The zoning compliance requirement would establish news. The part of this application would be as of per section 25.2.1. A written statement of use would be required. This statement would have to include the months that are requested for this seasonal use and the hours of operation. It would also confirm the food-related business requesting the market, again, subject and consistent with the amendment. The commission could approve the requested months and hours or change them as part of the conditions to their action. If you remember, there was some question about whether or not to add specific times in the amendment to the zoning regulation. That would probably not be appropriate or necessary, because you would do that as part of the process when you're reviewing the permit application. Also, as part of that application, as per our section 2522, a site plan is required. That site plan must confirm that the business making the request is 100 feet from the proposed farmer's market location and show the specific size, location of the market area. The commission would then review for approval all other requirements for approval listed in section 25, of course, including the avoidance of undue traffic congestion when reviews, because part of your review of that site plan would be reviewing pedestrian and vehicular traffic and parking to and around the proposed farmer market. So, that was just to answer some questions about the process if in fact the use was permitted. But like, as you know, with all amendments to the zoning regulations, there are findings that you need to make, and I'll go through those really quickly with you. Those findings that you would have to find positively to approve is, one, that, again, this is consistent with the plan of conservation and development. Two, that time, experience, and reasonable planning for contemporary or future conditions indicates the need for the zone amendment. Three, it has been demonstrated that the proposed zone amendment is warranted and would serve the general health, welfare, and safety of the town of Fairfield. And number four, the proposed zone change promotes a level of development, this proposed zone amendment promotes a level of development that would serve to protect property values in the neighborhood and enhance the community. So those basically are the findings you would need to make to approve the amendment.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
Well, not just the chair.
I'm sorry.
May I ask a question, staff?
Yeah, I have
Before-
one. I have
is there-
one too, yeah, go ahead.
So just to be clear, I mean, I don't want to be repeating this too much, but the point is that by approving item 3A, we are not approving a specific location. We're not approving that Palmville
4A.
gets to have their own farmer's market.
Four-
What we're
4A.
deciding is, do we think the idea of taking design industrial property and perhaps allowing appropriate ones, that's what we're doing here. That's it. That's
Correct.
it. And
A little
if
more
they come back and they
yeah.
have something that doesn't fit on things like traffic, they can't have it.
It's a little more specific than that, because it wouldn't be in all, needless to say, it wouldn't be all industrial areas, because you'd have to meet the
These
criteria,
criteria,
the food-related business
Right.
and at the 100 feet from that.
Fairly unusual. But
Right. But yes, that's
So-
correct. You're not approving any use at this point. If the amendment was approved, then an application would have to be made to the commission.
So, a couple of times you said an amendment to the zone. You mean an amendment to the
I'm sorry,
to the
it's a regulation.
Right,
I mean, the
right,
process is essentially the same, but yes, it's an amendment to the zoning regulation.
right. So it's the same standard, but when you said amendment to the zone, you meant amendment to the regulations?
That's correct. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and then I think that some of the things that you were addressing, I think, are for our
Yeah.
debate, yeah. So, but I think, does anyone else have any questions of staff on procedure? No? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve. Do you want to discuss it?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly, second by Commissioner Coleman.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I want to say that I asked those questions because we give Commissioner here, Mr. Calabrese, who, his works over in that area, and he has concerns about, he's already raised concerns about the issue of, what kind of how traffic would be impacted if you did something like this. So I think it was good that staff explained to us that we weren't somehow, approving what was going to happen there. Pond Mill was taking this as a first step. Generally speaking, I mean, to me, it seems it's reasonably in line with our plan of conservation development. Do I think there's a need? Yeah, I do. I think that anytime we can offer local produce, local fresh produce to our residents, that's a good thing. I think I don't think anyone thinks we have too many farmers markets in town. Is it warranted? I think anyone who's seen the intense desire that is raised by a lot of the moms who've been before us on other applications, on things like the Whole Foods. There is, it seems to me, a desire for, better food choices, fresher food choices, local food choices. So do I think it's warranted? I do, and I think this might be, if we don't have any concerns related to, say, are these industrial properties appropriate environmentally, et cetera, then to me it would seem to be warranted. Do I think that the development will impact property values? my sense is that, at least from a standpoint of an industrial property near a food service, this would seem not to be something that could have too much of a negative effect, as long as we were vigilant to make sure that whatever kind of traffic issues there were didn't negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. If there was a question, of course, that could be very troublesome and detrimental, and we wouldn't want that. But at first blush, it seems that the potential for a farmer's market like this, or additional opportunities for farmers markets like this in Fairfield, is something we, should certainly consider. So at least at this point, I'll listen to other folks' thoughts, but I would support it.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Coleman?
I won't repeat what Commissioner Kennelly said, because he said it very eloquently, but I don't see any detriment to it, and I think it gives tremendous upside to have the flexibility to perhaps let farmers markets operate out of an industrial zone, so I would support it.
Commissioner Alessi?
Although I agree that I would like to see farmers markets on Saturdays and Sundays, I don't think this is the best location for it. I think this site is just overpacked as it is now, and I just see it as a safety issue, so I will not be supporting this.
Okay, but recognizing also, of course, that we're not approving the location at the Sportsplex. This is to amend the regulations to enable...
So we're doing that separately than the sports?
No, that's not, it's not in front of us. It's not in front of us at all.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Anthony's
Yeah.
concerns, is that if they bring us a plan that
Microphone.
excuse me.
Not to interrupt, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. If they bring us, for example, Pond Mill brings us, they're offering this, because you're right, they do have this interest. But what they're offering to us, I think, is an interesting opportunity for us to have this
Farmers market.
tool in our toolbox.
And I'll-
But we stand ready that if they bring us a plan that, defies the common sense, say, of one of our own fellow commissioners who works there every day, of course, we'll vote it down, I would say.
Right, so there's no pending companion
Then I misread that. I thought there was
application.
an area for that.
There's
Okay.
no pending companion application for approval of a market which would comply with these regulations at the Sportsplex that is before us, right? The regulation what's on the table,
And I will be voting for this.
okay, what's on the
I
table
always understood that they were gonna put this on the parking lot, 85 no play eruption. Okay.
is a process,
Okay.
is an amendment to the regulations which would enable a process by which the owner of a design industrial district location within 150 feet of an established
You read
food
it my way?
service business
Okay.
could make an application under 25.2.1 for a zoning compliance application with a statement of use and a site plan under 25.2.2, complying with all of the, explaining to us the traffic implications and all the rest of it. You get it? Got it. All right. I got a question. I'm sorry. How many areas in town that are zone DID are within 150 feet of an established pool?
Yeah, it would be 100 feet. That question was brought up at the public hearing. I don't know if there was actually an answer, but I mean, if you just think about our industrial zone areas that also have a food market within 100 feet, I would
Down on
guess that there's
Commerce
not
Drive.
many.
Yeah, right. Like, down
Yeah,
on
I
Commerce
think this
Drive.
is a relatively unique, that condition of the amendment, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not many. I mean, it would be a very finite area.
I suppose there wouldn't be any limit on the size, it would just be dependent upon the zoning compliance application?
Yeah, I mean, you, as part of your application, not only would be there that letter of intent that would specify the months, the time of operation, along with the site plan, that would have to show the area, hopefully how it would coordinate with pedestrian and traffic and parking. If I had a guess, I would say most of these have some type of, because they're temporary, some type of tent area. So that would have to be shown on the site plan. Needless to say, I'm assuming, just this assumption, that you would not approve something that would eliminate parking, for instance,
Right.
in an area that's required. So those are the kind of criteria that you would be reviewing when you review the site plan.
Right, okay, thanks. Commissioner Barron?
Yeah, again, I think it's pretty well articulated. The application in front of us is to amend our regulations. A zone, whatever name you give it, industrial is merely it's a collection of permitted uses and associated regulations with those uses. Industrial zone allows a wide variety of uses. There's auto dealerships, there's typical manufacturing and warehousing, but there's also indoor recreation, restaurants, and food service. And I think 85 Mill Plain Road has been really an outstanding use of taking our existing regs, regardless of what you call industrial zone, and building a complex that complied with those regs, really without changing them, other than, there were some parking amendments that we made. So my question on this use is more like, is this something that's really consistent with the uses? Because the two big uses that are not allowed in that zone, what makes it unique is office and retail. So that's what's not allowed there. But, there's some like retail uses, like auto dealerships are allowed there, auto repair shops that sell stuff are there. So, as a policy, I like farmers markets, and since we allow food and food service already there, I'd be inclined to support it. My only reservation is it more kind of like retail? I mean, it's really not a restaurant if you're going there buying vegetables and leaving. So, again, and I agree, any application, regardless if we've envisioned yet in an industrial zone, would have to come before us for a compliance. So I'm not that worried about that. Even, if Pondville LLC, I'm sure they'll come back with something. It doesn't mean we have to approve it. But we'd certainly, approving this allows them to come back with said application. So I guess I have some concerns, but, I like farmers markets. I think it's consistent with restaurant and food service. I'd be inclined to support it.
Commissioner Jacobs?
I agree with the comments of my fellow commissioners, and I do have some concerns, but as long as we're just right now voting on the amendment, I'll support it.
Amendment to the regulations. Commissioner Calabrese?
This is interesting zoning amendment, obviously, a regulation amendment. I think for all the points that everybody else here has made, farmers markets are good. Nobody here is against farmers markets. Is the industrial zone the proper spot for a farmers market? That I don't really know. And personally, I don't think it is. We can't really come up with too many other restaurants or food businesses that are currently in the industrial zone other than the one or two that are in the Sportsplex now. Obviously we have the whole metro area, which who knows what's going to go in there. Maybe down the road that's a spot for a farmer's market, but I don't know. I've definitely got some concerns. There's a lot of, I know the traffic, and I know this isn't an application coming forward for that spot right now, but if that's the only other spot in town right now that we can think of that's in the industrial zone, it's the only spot they'd be able to come forward with. So, I don't know. I'm leaning towards not supporting it, but I like farmers markets. I don't think the industrial zone's the right spot for them.
Commissioner Alessi?
Commissioner Calabrese and Commissioner Barnes bring up two good points. I mean, we have a lot of spots now that are available for farmers markets. I don't think we have any on Saturdays. Maybe a different Mill Plain Road or stuff, Town Green, or so many other spots in town that could have a farmers market right now, but I don't even know why they don't have it. So, but why are we approving an industrial zone, which we know will be behind it, an application?
Well,
It's not like we're
is that
short of
just out
space
there?
of town.
Can I,
mean, it's for everybody to throw it out there.
Can I answer that?
I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to.
Are we in short of spaces now in the town?
Hey, well, here's my thought about that, Mr. Vice Chairman, is what my thought is that if there are a handful of these spots where you have food or food service, within 100 feet in a DID, what you might be able to do is you have some motivation there to get that going. And then when folks get to see the farmers market at work, I agree with you. I think that some of the places you've described might be interesting, but the impetus there might not be there because there might not yet be, food-related businesses that already are thinking to themselves, hey, how can I take this to another step, having, kind of bring something else to the community. And I think once people have more opportunities for those markets, maybe that will also increase interest in some of these places that would be a good fit for them, but may not necessarily right now have food-related businesses nearby. If you see what I'm saying? In other words, I agree with you. I think those are good places, but I think this may be one way to do what you're asking, which is to spur that interest by now maybe having 1 or 2 or 3 more spots in town where people might see this. Why? Because there might be this relationship between the industrial property and the food provider, the food service provider, who might be motivated to try to, provide produce. That's all I'm saying. If you want to bring them there, this might be a way to spur that.
I got you.
Did it-
Yes. So, and I'll get to you in 1 second. The one that I know of is the Greenfield Hill in the Mercado area, right, back in that triangle.
And the Grange.
I'm pretty sure that there's also one at the Grange, right? Those are the 2 that I know of. I think it's food service within 100 feet of the DID. Okay, so it's not that there would need to be a food service establishment in the DID. So the way I thought of it is that you'd have a DID near a commercial area where there is a food service within 100 feet of that DID. So it'd like be on the edge of the DID. So I'm thinking Commerce Drive, area. Yeah. But again, I don't know.
One other thought too regarding the DID and why it might be appropriate is this, just to throw that out there, I know you had concerns, Commissioner Calabrese, is just those places where we mentioned where there are markets are actually closer to parts of town that are actually more related to farming. Greenfield Hill, for example, has a history as a farming community. Southport has a history is connected to produce and all of its history as a one time a port. I think that some of these design industrial properties near, within 100 feet of possible food service could be in places on the eastern part of town where we might not otherwise think of putting a farmer's market in that might well serve some of these communities that otherwise maybe won't travel across town to Greenfield Hill or to Southport to enjoy a fresh produce in one of these opportunities. And this could be a nice opportunity.
That's a good point. Commissioner Coleman.
I think one other synergy is that, and it's obviously not completely true, but industrial zoned areas may have less saturation on Saturdays and Sundays when the farmers market. So
Right.
it's a way of utilizing what would otherwise be unused property on a weekend.
Anyone else? No. Are we ready to vote? Okay. So the motion on the table is to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Nay, Calabrese. Any abstentions? The item passes with 1 no vote. Next item on the agenda is 1073 North Benson Road, special exception application of Fairfield University for an addition to the School of Nursing in a AA zone. Public hearing 10/28, expires 1/1/15.
Okay, as the chairman had mentioned, Fairfield University makes this application to construct an addition to the existing structure on campus, which houses the School of Nursing. The existing gross area of the school now is 16,471 square feet. The building is currently, some of the issues that were brought up at the hearing and the reason for the amendment and additions proposal is the building currently is not sprinkled. The building has received minimal renovations and all building systems are beyond their useful life. Bathrooms are in need of ADA upgrades. Office space is tight. Some of the office needs of the school have been met temporarily with construction trailers, as was outlined at the hearing, to the northeast of the building, installed in 1999. The proposed building program calls for the complete renovation of the existing School of Nursing and the removal of these temporary construction trailers and the construction of a new 4-story addition. That addition would be approximately 35,000 square feet. As mentioned at the hearing on August 7, 2014, the Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously granted a variance with regard to the proposed section 5.2.2 to allow the height addition to 58.8 feet, the number of stories 4. The zoning regulations, as reported to the commission at one time, prior to the amendment of them, did allow special exception structures, which this is, to be 60 feet in height and 5 stories. That's why the current building is that height, and that was the reason for the request of the waiver for the addition. The new addition will be consistent and harmonized with the surrounding buildings located on the campus. That was represented to the commission. It was represented to the commission by a overview and review of their proposed elevations. This addition has also received an approval from the Inland Wetlands Agency, and that permit was approved in 2013. As part of the proposal, existing fourth food service line will be made operational and available to students. Oh, wait a minute.
That's the logo.
Oh, it's this.
Food service?
No, that's, sorry.
Yeah, that's.
Never mind that.
That's logo, that's logo.
Here's your findings that you need to find. I mean, I get mixed up with all the school
Yeah, I know,
operations. Schools are permitted use in this zone, subject to receiving an approval under section 27 of the zoning regulations. The commission must find that the additions are consistent with relevant zoning design requirements, and as per section 27.4, the conditions of approval, the location, type, character, and size of the building additions shall be in harmony with and conform appropriate and orderly development of the area and the campus, and not hinder or discourage appropriate development and use of adjacent property or impair its value. And provisions have been made for entering and leaving the property without creating undue hazards to traffic or congestion, and adequate off-street parking. Those issues were discussed at the hearing as described to the commission as you reviewed their site plan. That, Mr. Chairman, is pretty much what was reviewed at the hearing.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Jacobson,
Seconded.
second by Commissioner Calabrese. Commissioner Jacobson?
I think this was a well-presented application. I've been inside that building many times. As a former nursing instructor, I know that they have a need. They have an incredible need for space, for labs and for offices, and they have a very vibrant program, and I think it'll be a nice addition to the campus.
Commissioner Calabrese?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think this is a good application. The campus is definitely in need of updating at that portion, and the School of Health definitely needs it, so.
Anyone else? Okay. I agree, for all the reasons that were reviewed by staff comments. It was a well-presented application. We had detailed plans. All the requirements were satisfied, so we should support this application. Any other comments? No? Motion is to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? It's approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is .356 Black Rock Turnpike, 73-75 Duca Avenue, special exception application of Bright Beginnings Fairfield LLC pertaining to renovations to establish a daycare facility in the design, commercial, and Commerce Drive overlay area. Public hearing on 10/28/2014.
All right, Mr. Chairman, just really quickly, the applicant requests a special exception approval in order to establish a day nursery on property located at 356 Black Rock Turnpike with additional parking on adjacent properties on 36 and 75 Duke Avenue. All the properties are located in design commercial district, and such daycare facilities is permitted, subject to securing a special exception as per our section 12.4.28.3. The proposed location is adjacent to Interstate I-95 and also located walking distance from the Metro North train station. As reviewed with the commission, Bright Beginnings will offer a variety of programs, and to kind of outline for the commission what the daily use would be like, it talked about a full day program will be available where children are dropped off between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. and picked up between 4 and 6 p.m. There's also a 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. program where children are generally dropped off between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. and picked up between 2:30 and 3:30 p.m. A 3-day program is also available with children arriving between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. and being picked up between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Finally, a 2-day program is also available with the same general hours of operation. The reason for them outlining this way is they wanted to stress to the commission that the arrival and departure time for the students, regardless of the program, is spread out through the morning and afternoon periods. Again, and also bright beginnings would be closed on weekends. Along with trying to describe for the commission what the intensive use would be the intensity of the use would be, the total enrollment, as represented the commission in all of the varied programs, would ultimately, they hope to have as many as 170 students. These students, again, as mentioned, would be dispersed throughout the day based upon various programs that I just overviewed. Many employees, as far as the employees, they indicated that many of them would work part-time, but anticipate the highest level employee attendance on the property during a peak hour operation would be approximately 30 to 35. It is expected, they do expect that between 20 to 25% of the employees would use public transportation. Again, as they mentioned, the train station is within walking distance at this proposed location. There would be a total of 42 parking spaces provided on the site. The site location is the existing Fairfield Lighting Center, which is currently in operation with parking on site and parking on the 2 adjacent residential properties would be provided, and they mentioned how those, the 2 residential properties, the structure would be removed from those properties. As it was mentioned at the hearing, basically what you have is a 14,000 square foot lighting center building that would be totally renovated interior, and that was specifically described how that was going to be handled. The center will be accessed by 2 parking areas. As I mentioned, one lower lot would have the 12 parking spaces, including 2 handicap parking spaces adjacent to the south portion of the building, and one upper lot with 30 parking spaces located on the south portion of the property. The lower lot accessed by single driveway on Duke Avenue will have a single side parking aisle with parking opposite the building, if you remember as indicated on the site plan. The lower parking lot would be utilized by the staff, is what they indicated. The upper lot would be have entering driveways to the north and an existing driveway to the south, allowing for a counterclockwise one-way loop. If you remember how they would loop through the 2 properties. And they felt that those lots would facilitate the parent parking. What Bright Beginnings would manage the pickup and drop-off operations. They indicated that they would direct parents to park in the upper parking lots. Parents then would be able to walk their children to the building using a staircase located in the northern corner of the property. There was some question at the hearing about parents that would be using strollers, and they indicated that there would be new sidewalks connecting from the front main entrance. So if you were in the upper parking lot and you could not use the steps, you would basically use the sidewalks to get your children to the pickup and drop-off area. All right, again, this is a special exception. There are conditions of approval that you need to review and find positively to approve this kind of location, and I'll go through them real quickly. Again, there's section 2741. The location, type, character, and size of the use of the building and structures shall be in harmony with and conform to the appropriate orderly development of the town and the neighborhood, and not hinder or discourage appropriate development uses of adjacent properties or impair its value. The second one would be the nature and location of the use in buildings or structures shall be such that there will be adequate access for fire protection. There was discussion about how that was going to be handled at the hearing. The street serving the proposed use shall be adequate to carry prospective traffic. Provisions shall be made for entering and leaving the property without creating undue traffic hazard or congestion. And adequate off-street parking in accordance with section 28 of the zoning regulations would be required. And that would include our section 2811.3, our street trees. If you remember, there was some discussion at the hearing about the landscaping plan, site plan that was shown to the commission. There was specific discussion about that, and some commission members thought that it didn't seem to be consistent with the intent of that section. What the applicant mentioned in rebuttal is that they would be willing, and of course, this commission could condition that they would have to submit a revised plan indicating the location of trees, shade trees, more in keeping with the intent of the regulation. And it was discussed at the meeting that there was appropriate areas within the proposed parking lots that could be accomplished. Of course, though, the commission, if they felt it was a requirement, that I would recommend that a condition of approval be that you receive a site plan and that you review to confirm that it is in fact consistent with the intents of that section. And along with that, a landscaping plan shall be provided in accordance with 2576. They did that. However, that would be the plan that would be amended to address any concern the commission had about inconsistency with the shade tree requirement. The final finding, and it's in our section 2747, it's more or less a condition of approval with respect to day nurseries. The use shall be situated and developed so as to create no nuisance, nor have a detrimental effect on privacy, tranquility, or the value of surrounding properties. And the special exception shall be limited to group care programs for children for a period but not more than 5 years. What we have there is after the 5-year period, a request for re-up of their application is made to the commission. At that time, the commission would review any issues or complaints or any issue at all that would come up during that 5-year period and either act to have that those issues taken care of through any kind of action the commission would take on their request for re-up on the application. That, Mr. Chairman, are the findings that you need to review for this application.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we table this until we see revised site plan showing the shade trees in the parking lot. That's my suggestion.
Okay, we have a motion to table subject to revised plan for shade trees and parking.
Yeah, I know. We have received, although it was after the hearing, but based on those comments, we did receive a revised plan that showed adjustment for shade trees in the parking area. I mean, you can see that. We don't feel it's ex parte or outside the record because it was something that you requested at the hearing.
You did.
So I just want to make sure.
We don't have.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. We know there can be no public comment on this, but we did receive these, even though Mr. Fallon did run over here.
That was the big issue, that we
Yes,
had to
so
deal
yeah,
with.
no, we just want to make sure that
Okay,
was,
pass
we
that
understood that
down.
it was something that you could accept.
If you go every other person, it might work better.
Yeah, here. Okay. Yeah, these are the-
There were a couple of trees, you may recall, there were a couple of ornamental trees that were replaced with larger shade species, and a couple were relocated within the parking area.
Okay,
Those were the
So,
real issues.
just procedurally, okay, would have liked to seen this before. We have currently a motion to table and a second that's been made, pending this plan. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I certainly would like to look at this and talk about
Table
it.
and keep it open for discussion
Sure,
for
what
now?
procedurally, what we anticipated is obviously that was a concern raised at the hearing, and them not having the ability to present new testimony. This was offered as an example of how a condition of approval could potentially be satisfied.
See, what you've done in the past is you've maybe conditioned your approval on receiving a revised landscaping plan. What you do is you have it in front of you now, so if you
Yeah.
felt that even without specifically having time to review this more completely, you could condition your approval on this plan, and if you don't feel it's consistent, that's a condition that's not met.
We could even, after this point, make further review and
Right.
suggest and require additional changes or
Correct.
differences.
Yeah, your condition would
to
read
this.
that, subject to confirming that revised landscaping plan is consistent with the regulations.
But wait a second, but what if, even based on this plan, parking spaces have to be removed to provide for shade trees, and they don't meet the requirements for the parking?
It's not, none of the parking
are being
spaces
removed.
are removed.
They only added one tree.
But as far as what I'm looking at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 trees, they're not even on the property. They're outside the parking lot.
Those are street trees. I'll be
Yeah,
reading, two trees are added to the parking area, one in the upper lot, and the other is over by the dumpster area. Trees have been changed, there were 2 trees changed from red maple to a
So
wider
they're
growing
putting trees
oak.
in the dumpster.
That's all, that one was there.
Guys, do they have 5 trees within the lot? That's what they need.
It's 1 per 10.
It's 1 per 10 and they have 42, so I see 4 trees over here, where's the 5th tree?
Well, there's a tree on their property adjacent to the lower entrance, and then there's 3 trees out in the right of way. Again, you don't need to, on the fly, necessarily agree that this is the landscaping plan you want. This is offered as a potential opportunity, as an example of how a condition could be met. If you determine that this doesn't meet that condition, then they would have to revise the landscaping plan. But I don't think this is inconsistent with other shade tree implementations that this commission has approved, including, trees that are in the right of way that they plant. That's been done before. Now, if you feel differently, they can rearrange this, but I think you've got the issue of the application itself and then a potential condition of approval. You don't need to do them at the same time.
Let me ask you, can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, and you know what, as you were just talking, I was listening and thinking at the same time. And we are within there's been a motion and a second, so we are actively discussing that at the moment, so we're free to talk about any of this stuff, right? Okay, good. Commissioner Kennelly.
Thanks, another question. So,
Let me try to make sure I can understand this. Sometimes we approve a application and people don't have a sign plan. Sometimes we approve an application and we want them to come back with a landscape plan that fits what our regs require. They can't move ahead unless they do that, right?
Correct.
So it's not as though we don't do that on a pretty regular basis, so that if we're otherwise comfortable with the application, they can't move forward until they deliver us a plan for landscaping that does absolutely meet the regs and meet what the commission wants on the site.
And
So the 2 issues can be
is
separate.
that plan submitted for an agenda item and reviewed by us in a packet that comes up, and then we have it and we vote on it?
Well, that's up to you, yes,
Yeah.
you can choose to do so.
Right. We have not, in certain circumstances, done that route before.
You've done it 2 ways. You allowed the staff to review based
Right.
on comments that you made in executive session, and we determined whether or not it was consistent with that, or you requested that it be reviewed by you in executive
Right.
session.
That's what I thought. That's what I, okay?
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Chairman? The reason I say that is that oftentimes what happens, and that determines whether we bring something back to us, for example, like a sign plan, is, or in this case, landscaping, is often there are specific things we see on us that people want, that members of the commission want, and that gives direction to staff. So one of the things we have here is if we begin the process to discuss this for an approval, and then we unpack this part of it and look what they've got here as their opening bid, so to speak, we might be able to offer some concrete ideas about what we think would be appropriate on this site and within our regulations to direct staff, or bring it back, bring it back.
Commissioner Barron's. Go ahead.
My turn?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I had it in my notes, and I was thinking, I didn't know we would get a plan tonight, so I was
Microphone.
thinking, consistent with some actions in the past, that we could make a condition approval, that we would need a revised landscaping plan, brought back to the commission, that meets our current regs, not the past regs. I mean, the regs were just amended within the last year, the last few months, 1 per 10 spaces, clearly showing that, equally distributed. There's, think about what kind of trees they are, the caliper, the width, diameter, and that they can do that completely without a loss of spaces. That has to be demonstrated. I don't know, I mean, we can look at this now, but I think this is just a sample of what we could say. I don't think we're approving this plan. I think we would need to vote on this tonight. If we are going to approve it, we would need to condition it that we need a revised landscaping plan, doing all that stuff brought back to the commission.
Brought back to the commission
Yes.
for consideration at a hearing, you
Right.
know, in an executive session.
Right.
Commissioner Coleman.
Commissioner Francis, in kind of a sidebar conversation, raised an interesting question. Is it more appropriate that we review the plan or that the tree warden reviews the plan? Because I'd be happy saying conditional approval provided that the town tree warden is comfortable with or the office of whoever came up with the tree guidelines.
That's not, I mean,
I can,
Go ahead.
we would get his input for you, but he cannot approve this, only
Correct.
you can. So, absolutely, as a matter of fact, if you want to make that part of your motion,
Yeah,
that any
I-
revised plan
I
be
would.
reviewed by the tree ward before
Before we judge on
yeah,
it.
before, you know, in conjunction with it being
Yeah.
on the agenda, that the tree warden provide his comments on the revised plan.
not a problem.
That could be done.
Because frankly, if he's happy with it, I'm happy with it.
All right. Yeah, because, I mean, you know, just glancing at the plan, I don't know that it complies with the current regulations. And there may be some things that we or the tree warden might want to see differently.
I don't know.
Your paper.
Does anyone else have any more comments on this? No. You could withdraw your motion and revise it, make a renewed motion. That's,
I will withdraw my motion this time and change it to make a motion to approve on the condition that a revised site plan comes before us showing shade trees that we're looking for, and must meet our approval to continue, I would say.
right, in compliance with the new regulations, come back before the commission for our consideration at a hearing, and we would ask that staff obtain the comments of the tree warden, that, you know, we see that when we consider the plan.
And I'm assuming I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This is a motion to approve?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a motion to approve with those conditions.
Just to narrow it from my
As stated,
small mind. All the other
conditions.
findings, you're finding, you have no problem with.
Yeah, I mean, it's
nothing
your
else.
motion, but I believe.
Right, Rob, I'm just saying, if
Well, we're
there
open for
is,
discussion now,
Yeah,
so
it's, yeah,
we're open for discussion.
and that's right.
We're
Now,
advising
make sure
from
there-
tabling it
it's not
to
just this, it's
discuss
only-
it.
Right.
everything else is.
while we're framing the motion, before we have a second, were there any other conditions of approval which were required that we discussed at the hearing or that staff recommends for the application?
No, I mean, the only thing that I know was left questioned was our section 28.3.11.3, the shade tree consistency. Other than that, what you just need to determine, because there was no discussion at the hearing specific, is that those findings that I listed for you
Right,
are, that these plans are consistent with those findings.
right. Okay, and that's what we need to determine in order to pass judgment on the motion. The motion has that one condition. All right, so we have a motion to approve with condition. Commissioner Jacobson, you seconded the first, do you second the revised motion?
Yes, I will.
All right, second by Commissioner Jacobson. So now, further discussion on the motion to approve with conditions as stated. Anyone? Sure.
No, go ahead.
Well, you know,
Going by the numbers again, I think that, you know, I'm going to support this. You know, this 24.7.1, you know, is it in line with where we're going in terms of this area? Yeah, it is, because one of the things we did as a commission was we created an overlay there where there's going to be a lot more residential someday. When it's going to come, I don't know, but very adjacent to that. So we're going to need this we're going to need this. It's also in line with what sort of the development of this part of town is going to be. we had industrial properties there with these kind of unusual sort of target retail, lighting stores, piano stores, things like beautiful, wonderful things close to highway. But if there's going to be a community developed, you're going to need this kind of service. So I think it's in line with 27.4.1. I thought regarding the nuisance value, it's uniquely sort of away from everything right now. It's sort of its own island. So I think it meets the concerns related to nuisance. And honestly, if we end up having concerns about, does it really work there? You have small children in an area that does have a traffic circle, does, have intensity of traffic, and there are concerns that time and experience shows us, make us believe that maybe it wasn't a good idea. At the end of 5 years, obviously, we can, change tack. But it does seem that this kind of development is probably the future of that area. And so, for those reasons, I support it. And I do completely support the Vice Chairman and Commissioner Jacobs' condition that we get an absolutely reasonable, inline site plan that includes a review by the tree warden, as mentioned by Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. The only thing I would add to your comments is that it also does not provide undue traffic congestion. I mean, the circulation appeared adequate to me, and it's a commercial, it was a commercial establishment, and it will continue to be. Commissioner Coleman?
I think it meets the conditions for approval. I think in the hierarchy of life needs, we need child care centers more than we need lighting stores, and I would support this.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I think there's a recognized need for daycare today in this town, and Mr. Cadell said there could be more in the future, but there is today. The applicant, I know we stumbled over some numbers and how they derived that, but regardless of that, if they just stepped up and said, we need, more daycare in this town, I would have said, yeah, we do. So I do recognize that. I think it's a good application. It's going to be a renovated building. The use is consistent with that area. It meets our regulations. I don't think it'll cause undue traffic. I mean, there's people, they gave the numbers, there's people entering and leaving, in the morning, in the afternoon. And the flow is going to, what I'm most concerned about is how people are going to get into the lot, circulate, drop their kids off. At first I was like, why are they dropping there and they're walking in? But as long as there's safe ingress and egress for the people who are using the facility and the children, then I think it's an excellent application, and I'll support it, provided we have those conditions that we discussed. And I also I don't want to make them wait another few. I think we should approve it tonight, let them come back with the application, because I'm sure they would like to move forward with this, and so I'd be inclined to approve it tonight.
Anyone else? Okay, ready to vote? All right. Yeah. Motion was made by Alessi and seconded by Commissioner Jacobson. Okay. Motion to approve with conditions as stated. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda is, compliances. 85 Mill Plain Road, compliance application of William De Silva to establish an outdoor dining at an existing restaurants in the design industrial zone.
All right, we're back to the Sportsplex here. This is local. The existing restaurant in the Sportsplex, they have an outdoor dining patio with a net patron area of 190 square feet. You may recall that our regulations allow for up to 150 square feet of outdoor dining without any incremental parking. They have the addition, oh boy, that's a typo there. There's 40 square feet above that 150. It required one additional parking space to be accounted for, and they made an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals to grant a variance of that one space, which was approved. So now they're before you for the zoning compliance for that outdoor patio.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Jacobson.
Okay, so generally speaking, as a rule, I'm pretty supportive of outdoor dining because of the energy and life it adds to our community, and also I think it's a traffic calming device. I'm a big believer in putting merchants and people, and as much as you can, on sidewalks and close to streets, because counterintuitively, just like making roads narrower, you think it causes congestion. There's actually plenty of studies out there from APA that talk about how skinny roads and pedestrian life actually improves traffic safety. In this case, the patio they're talking about, if you look at your map, you know, is inside this indentation. So it's not as though, you know, they're out in the parking lot proper. So generally speaking, you know, because when I first read this, I was a little bit concerned, you know, how is that going to work? But where it's placed, I think, can work on the site. So, you know, I would suggest we approve it.
I'll go.
Commissioner,
Go ahead, you seconded it.
Commissioner Jacobs?
I agree. It's in a location that's out of the way, and I think it'll be a nice addition.
Commissioner Calvers?
Thank you. Well, I will stay straight up that I am not going to support this. Again, based on the exact same reasons that I don't support anything that's going to take parking away from spots in the sportsplex. While I did have dinner at the local tonight, and I love the restaurant, I like the outdoor seating, taking away parking in that parking lot is not a wise decision. There's no spots to park now. The people don't slow down. There's not enough speed bumps in there. And now that the winter's come, the sportsplex is taking out their portable, their removable speed bumps, and now there's no reason for the cars to slow down. So I will not be supporting this.
Can I just add one question related to that, just quickly? Are they proposing outdoor dining outside of the normal period that we suggest, which is usually spring, summer, and the early fall? So,
Right.
so
The
that just that.
April 1 through the end of October. Right.
Fair enough.
Well, anyone else? You know, one of the comments you made was about, you know, putting people and cars together, and, you know, the outdoor dining has a calming effect. You know, where this is situated in this recess doesn't really achieve that same kind of balance and harmony between the people and the cars in the area. I am struggling with this, I have to be frank. The parking lot is very congested, and whereas our regulations do allow for some outdoor dining, here they're even asking for a little bit more than what even our regulations allow. And that's going to increase patronage, which of course is what they want, but that will also increase the number of cars. And I don't know that we can put any more stuff in here for the restaurant area where this is located. I agree with everything you said about encouraging outdoor dining, and we've done it, and we've approved. It's up and down the post road. I mean, it's all over town. This location is just so congested now. I just don't know that this application, the way it is supportable.
Are you open to me offering a few more thoughts to convince you? I just want to just offer one. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. First, it is one parking space. The second thing that I would say is, you're right. I was talking about outdoor dining as, you know, in general. However, you know, here you're right. It's not as though this is not on a sidewalk or something like that. However, I would say, though, that in terms of its interrelationship with the remaining parking lot here, essentially, folks are going to kind of walk through that area, I suppose, and then enter the parking lot. So the diners really aren't going to be in that traffic area, because I will tell you, until I actually got to look at the map, I was a little nervous. It reminded me of that old Colt 45 commercial when I was a little kid, where the guy would the bull would go running by, and he'd try to pick up his beer, and things would happen. I mean, it seemed crazy. But when you actually look at the map and how it, as Commissioner Jacobson said, is sort of out of the way, it's in a secluded spot. And just generally, you know, I think one thing we should keep in mind here is that if it's something like this doesn't work, we're always completely within our purview to deny allowing them to do it going forward. This isn't something that's permanent. They have to come back each year for recertification. One of the things this commission did was to make those reins tight to make sure that when we did offer this kind of we allowed businesses to offer this kind of amenity, that if it wasn't working in a single year, we could come back if there were concerns, anecdotal or whatever it might be. You know, people coming to us and raising concerns. We could go back and say, sorry, this doesn't work and next year you can't do it. So.
Commissioner Barrett.
I have a question on one of the staff comments. A variance was granted. A variance was granted earlier this year for the one additional space. Does that mean they went to the ZBA and got a variance?
Yes, they did.
Now, this actually concerns me because, again, we always talk about this as a model development. When they started with this, we had a certain number of spaces in the zone, and they started to get tenants. And they kept coming down and getting overall ratio of, instead of 5, we got it down to 3, right?
Yep. Somewhere in that.
Somewhere there.
Exactly.
And every time we got one, we did an analysis, and they kept saying, and eventually, because we amended our regs to allow for the discretion of the commission in the industrial zone, which we don't have in the commercial zone, we were able to work with them, look at the uses, and pretty much allowed them to fill up every square foot of that place, given their parking, without having to add a lot of parking.
And
So-
I think on the last one, we said, this is the last
Right.
one.
So I'm just concerned that
Right.
now,
I
after
agree.
doing that for 3 years, they've actually gone to the ZBA, where we have in our regs that we can actually vary it in the industrial zone. So I know
Because
it's
they
only...
thought, probably because we told them the last time that was the last one. So
Right.
they figured if they came before us to ask us for another discretionary approval, that we would have denied it because we told them it was the last one.
Right.
So they went to the ZBA instead.
So while I'm a fan of outdoor dining, I think that this place may be maxed out, and regardless of what it is, and I know it's in a little niche, and I agree with Mr. I love outdoor dining myself. I'm just not sure putting anything more into this complex right now is a good idea, so.
Well, can I just make one comment with regard to that? The reason they went to the ZBA is because you're correct. The way that the math worked it worked out that when it was full, they didn't have any spaces left to give. That's why the variance, and it was one space. The regulations allow up to 150 square feet. Again, it's subject to approval of the zoning compliance, 150 square feet without any more parking. So again, on the order of magnitude, we're talking about 40 square feet here. So, I mean, you can view it in two ways. The 150 square feet that doesn't require any additional parking, but they had 40 more than that, and they got that incremental variance for that one car. So that's why that occurred.
Anything more?
No, it's still a variance for one space, but I agree, and those are things we put in to encourage. We want outdoor dining, so, having the free 150, that's a good thing. I support that.
Commissioner Les.
Well, I agree with everything Commissioner Barrett said, and I agree with everything that Commissioner Calabrese said. I mean, they come back time after time and said this was the last time, especially the last time when they came to us to fill in one of the spots, and I just think this is just a horrible parking lot to begin with, and I think it's dangerous to begin with. I just don't think this is a safe parking lot. So I will not be voting for this, to approve this.
Commissioner Jacobs.
I struggled with this one, and I have changed my mind. I will vote against it. I've been persuaded.
Anyone else? Are we ready to vote? The motion is to approve. An affirmative vote will approve it. A vote in the negative will defeat the motion to approve. But then the item stays on, do we need another one? No. that's-
No.
A vote in the
No.
negative will be to...
Majority vote against it,
Will be
a motion to approve is a denial.
Is a denial. Okay. Very good. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All against?
Nay.
Any abstentions? The item is denied with one affirmative vote. Two? I'm sorry. Commissioner Coleman also voted in favor. The item is still denied. Next item on our agenda is 110 Woodrow Avenue, compliance application of Flying Heron LLC to establish off-street parking in a designed commercial district.
Okay, this property is at the intersection of Woodrow and Peace Avenues. You may, if you come down exit 19 and you have the Indian restaurant, this is the vacant adjacent parcel. In January of 2009, a two-story office building was approved for this site. The then owner has since sold the property. The current owner is also the owner of an automobile service facility diagonally across on the corner of Peace Avenue, is seeking to establish an off-street parking facility on this site in lieu of the proposed office building. What is proposed is a gravel parking area with perimeter landscaping and sidewalk along Peace Avenue to allow the overflow of parking of vehicles for his business onto this site. Off-street parking is permitted in this zone, subject to securing a certificate of zoning compliance. We forwarded to you via email, I have hard copy if you need it, two letters, one from the neighbor abutting above this on Woodrow Avenue, and the other a neighbor on Peace. If you're inclined to view this favorably, we would recommend two conditions. One is the driveway apron that's shown now as bituminous concrete actually be concrete rather than pavement. And two, that the 5-foot walk that's required and shown on Peace Avenue, actually they showed it 4.5 feet, it should be 5 feet. We're also recommending that extend up along Peace Avenue as well. It's shown on one street, not the other.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Woodrow Avenue. They show a sidewalk currently along Peace Avenue and around the corner to the
Yep.
crosswalk, where it should extend up the length of the property.
Right,
5 foot wide too, right, you said?
5 feet, yes.
5 feet, yep.
The new requirements are 5 feet if it's offset from the face of the curb and 6 feet if it's on the curb. This has the way it's shown, has a snow shelf, so 5 foot would be the minimum.
Very good. Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Alessi,
Second.
second by Commissioner
With
Jacobson.
conditions as stated by staff.
Thank you. Motion is to approve with conditions as stated by staff
Yeah.
and seconded by Commissioner Jacobson. Any discussion? Commissioner Alessi?
No, it looks fine to me. The parking lot's gonna be gravel. I agree with the conditions of approval. I'll vote to approve it.
Very good. Right?
I will vote to approve it as well.
All right. Anyone else? I mean, I looked at this, I mean, I drive in this area all the time, and, this is a good application. It's gonna renovate a lot that has been in some disrepair for quite some time. Quite some time. Okay, no other comments? We ready to vote? Motion is to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 1177 Post Road, compliance application of Wells Ventures LLC for a change in use of a portion of a building from bank to retail and the addition of an elevator and elevator lobby in the Center Design Business District.
Okay, this site is presently occupied by Webster Bank. It's adjacent to Patriot Plaza. If you're familiar with that location, kind of the last piece of property that's kind of surrounded by the brick walk / Patriot Plaza that's not part of that. Now it will be. The bank has recently reduced their first floor presence by 50%. They've created a demising wall down the middle, and they're looking to establish retail space. The owner has established retail space on the other 50% of the first floor that was previously occupied by the bank. In addition, an elevator and an elevator lobby are proposed in the rear of the building. That addition will not result in any additional leasable space. The applicant is requesting that the elevator addition be approved as a zoning compliance rather than a special permit. We do have two examples, although not binding on this commission. There are two cases in which that was done similarly, the latest being an elevator addition for the medical building in the Brick Walk at 1305 Post Road. You may recall that there's a three-story elevator there because the existing elevator was inadequate and the elevator lobby was judged not to be an addition that warranted a special permit, but that is at your discretion. The parking is laid out in detail on the plan. It complies with our regulation in terms of the number of spaces that they need. And that's all I have unless there are any questions.
I have a question. Does anyone else have a question? So can you just talk a little bit more about the discretion in dealing with the elevator addition as a zoning compliance rather than a special permit? Is that discretion? I tried to look briefly in the regulations, but I didn't put my finger on it immediately.
Well, it's whether or not you consider it to be a quote addition. I mean, obviously, it's a physical presence, it's a lobby vestibule. It doesn't add any leasable tenant space. So when that question came up in the past, the commission decided that since it wasn't adding tenant lease space, it was just an amenity to the building and therefore didn't rise to the level of a special permit. Obviously, that's your call to make if you want to have the two things that you can, or three things, four things actually, you can decide to that this doesn't comply with the regulations at all and deny it. You can agree that it complies and zoning compliance is appropriate. Or if you think this warrants a public hearing for a special permit, you can do that. Also, in the alternative, you can have a hearing on the zoning compliance application as well.
And just put it all on for public hearing?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? No. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly,
I seconded.
second by Commissioner Coleman. Very good, Commissioner Kennelly.
I'm just going to, I read the statement of use, briefly reviewed the map. I at least have no problem with this. My concern really is just a matter in terms of the commission's efficiency. I completely understand the concern that some may have about, how much more do we want to draw the process out. Another thing I would say is that for those who are looking to do that they really have a substantive reason for drawing this process out additionally. Beyond, we often do this or something, but I only say this because this commission has truly served this year in terms of the total number of meetings, and at least my eye test on this is that, it works. But, I would just say that if there is a desire to further stretch out the process on this application, that the reasons be substantive.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Coleman?
I buy into the idea that an elevator addition is not really an addition, it's simply an accommodation, and why make this more lengthy and torturous for the applicant than necessary. It's also a standalone building, and I think whatever they do is unlikely to have any impact beyond their immediate building. And if it allows greater access to the second floor without increasing the need for parking or anything else, it's a minimal impact change. I would support it as is.
Very good. Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I agree. I would only. It's okay. Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good policy. I agree with what was said. I would only send it to public hearing if there were questions that we needed answered by the applicant. So if we come here, we're not sure about some things, that's one advantage, because we have some discretion to send it to public hearing. But I wouldn't do it just because we think we're giving something up there. I mean, I think we can review it, and I don't think an elevator rises to the level of an addition that would require a public hearing. I think we can review it as a compliance application. That's what I'd be inclined to do.
Okay. Anyone else? So, I agree with all that. And on my review of this is that it is a standalone building, it's an accessory, it merely provides access, it provides greater handicap access, viewing this application on its own, I agree with everything that's been said. The thing that the reason I asked the question before we even went into debate on this is because I'm wondering whether there is any precedent that accrues to our deciding to treat this as a compliance application such that any elevator that comes before us in the future is somehow now, it's going to be suggested that because we've done it in the past, that we ought to handle it the same way in the future, okay? And I don't believe that it does. I don't believe that the way we've handled applications in the past in construing our discretion in this instance or in any other instance creates a circumstance that binds us in handling future applications. But I want to raise it as an issue because I want it to be for the record that it's not the case. Do you have any comment on that?
No, I don't disagree with you.
Okay. Very good. Well, I appreciate the confirmation. Anybody else? Are we ready to vote? Motion is to approve without conditions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Item carries unanimously. Next item is public hearing. Take a 5-minute break? Yeah. Okay. Stand in recess. Call the meeting back to order. Next item on our agenda is public hearing, 909 Kings Highway West, request of attorney Charles Jankowski on behalf of Joseph Lagana for 100% release of a $10,282.50 bond pertaining to subdivision improvements in a B zone.
Good evening. I represent Joseph Lagana, who has built a house at 909 Kings Highway West. The house has been completed. He has a certificate of occupancy and a certificate of zoning compliance, and more importantly, he has completed all of the subdivision improvements as per the original subdivision requirements. And we would request the release of the remaining bond funds.
Thank you. I believe we have a note in the file that confirms that from Lord Ford. Yep. Okay. Any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to be heard on this item? Going once, going twice? Okay. Thanks very much. I'll close the hearing on this item. Next item is 1964 Post Road Special Permit Application of J&K Kim LLC for an addition to an existing building in a design commercial district.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey, and Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this evening representing J&K Kim LLC. This LLC consists of a husband and wife, Kyung Yun Kim and Yani Kim, the owners of property located at 1964 Post Road. This property is the site of the Kim's dry cleaning establishment, which is known as Friendly Cleaners. This property is located in the design commercial district. The original building on this property was, per the assessor's records, constructed in the year 1900. The intent of the applicants is to expand their existing building to the rear for the railroad tracks in order to run their operation more efficiently. The proposed addition is one story, 554 square feet, relatively small. Addition will be utilized for a large washer, a dry cleaning machine, and additional pressing equipment. To provide a more detailed description of the proposal, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jack Franzen, a principal of J.P. Franzen Associates Architects, P.C., with offices in Fairfield. Jack.
Thank you, Bill. I'm Jack Franzen, representing this application. I'm at 1241 Post Road. As Bill mentioned, we are planning an extension on the existing dry cleaners. The extension is proposed to be approximately 28 feet. It varies in depth because there's an angle at the rear of the property with respect to the railroad easement. Currently, the employees work in the same space as the conveyor racks for the dry cleaners. So if you go in there, if there was an employee over 6 feet tall, they would have to duck every time those machines go around with the hangers. The addition as presented will allow the owner to move the employee work area with the presses and what have you to the rear of the property so it can be more organized. The addition that we're proposing is 13 feet high. It's concrete block. It's going to match the existing rear addition that's already there. It's the same width, 20 feet, just an extension of it, but it is 5 feet lower. That existing addition, I think, is about 18 feet high. The expansion will vastly improve the working conditions. There won't be any increase in staff. It'll just be basically taking an area that really should be used for one function and now is currently used for two functions, and relocating it. The owner has, prior to this application, has been approved for a facade and roofline beautification that was completed a few years ago, and I think everyone would agree was a big improvement and was a huge investment for Kim, and really improved the streetscape. As you probably know, this is one of the few small sections of the post road that has residentially scaled structures, but they now contain businesses. And what we are seeking will not be visible. It's to the rear of the property. We're maintaining the nice facade that we think we created. We're accomplishing all this efficiency and improvement by adding on at the rear, which is really the only place we can put the addition. So with that, I'll turn it back to Attorney Fallon. Thank you.
No respect.
Attorney Fitzpatrick.
It's the last time I have you retained. Mr. Chairman, in a normal set of circumstances, the expansion of a retail use entails the expansion of customer floor area, results in increased customer traffic. In this instance, the space that's going to be added at the back of the building, it's production space, not an area accessible by customers. It's a work area, and as such, is unlikely to produce any additional customer parking demand. Fact of the matter is, parking is limited to what's there today. That's due to the fact this building was constructed in 1900. As you've heard from Jack, the purpose of the addition is to permit a better utilization of the space that the business has, as well as to permit a more efficient workflow. The recent increase in Kim's business is in delivery. As such, delivery customers produce no parking demand because customers just don't visit the premises. My client did discuss the application with the owner of the sole affected area, sole affected property. That's the property at 1954 Post Road to the east. And Mr. Bach, the owner, has written a letter. This is Town of Fairfield zoning dated November 14, 2014, to whom it may concern. Please be informed that as owner of 1954-1956 Post Road Fairfield, abutting 1964 Post Road Fairfield, I have seen the plans for the rear addition proposed by Mr. and Mrs. Kim and have no objections. I'll hand this in just a second. This application did require Zoning Board of Appeals variance approval as to the side setback, the rear setback, and parking, and I'd like to submit a copy of the ZBA approval together with Mr. Bach's letter.
Just give us the stack. We'll take one and pass it. Yeah.
I got an extra one here.
Approval of this application permits a modest expansion of an existing retail use which provides a valuable source to Fairfield residents in a fashion which does not negatively impact any property owner. The building here with the proposed addition in place is still significantly below the permissible coverage. It's less than 40% when 75% coverage is permitted. It's less than the permitted floor area ratio. It's 52% when with 150% is permitted. The commission has on occasion indicated a preference for mom and pop operations rather than retail chain outlets. This is the epitome of a mom and pop. The Kim family has a genuine pride of ownership, as evidenced by the fact that it went through the zoning process to improve the front facade several years ago. They've been successfully operating the cleaners on site for 8 years. They're just looking for a way to improve their business operations, make it more efficient and safer. You might term this a stealth edition. You literally will not see it from the street. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd request this relatively straightforward application be approved. Mr. Franzen and I, Mrs. Kim is unavailable tonight, but Mr. Franzen and I would be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Commissioner Barris.
Yes, I mean, I see in the variance filing, the number of parking spaces were reduced to 3. I keep forgetting, I apologize to Fair TV. The parking spaces were reduced from 3 to 0. Just for a practical matter, I understand the need for this application, what it's going to do. Where do people park at this dry
They park
cleaners?
right in front,
In front.
head in. That's
it.
all there is.
That's all there is.
There all is. You can squeeze a truck to the left-hand side of the building, and they do load a delivery truck back there.
Yeah.
But it's extremely tight, and it is not public.
But you can get back to the back of the building. Like,
You can.
What goes on in this gravel area that's near the proposed addition?
Well, I assume that's where they just back in the delivery truck. They use the vans that you see, and they load them up.
But the public never goes back there to park if they have to get there and all the spaces in front. It's just,
You're on your own.
yeah. Okay.
Where do the employees park?
The employees park either in back or they find a place on the street, like opposite, in front of the cemetery. There are some spaces there that are available. They're not going to take any spaces in front.
No,
That's
they're
for
on
darn
the
sure.
floor.
Yeah, and there are a lot of family employed, so they can carpool.
Was there any existing traffic flow around the building where the proposed addition is?
Not to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Chairman, except for the delivery truck. Jack, you want to speak to that?
Jack Franson again. Yes, it's, what Bill said is correct. There's never any traffic around. You couldn't go on the other side. It's not even 6 feet wide.
Right.
So there's no circuitry around there. And every time I've gone there, and maybe it's just the way I do it, but I've never been there when all 3 of those spots have been filled up. And I think, I know when I go to places like that, if the spaces are filled, I'm usually doing errands, so I would just come back at another time. But it's really never been a problem for me.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Going once, going twice? All right, very good. Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. I'll close the hearing on this item. Next item is 300 Quincy Street, subdivision application of Alfonso Camarada Jr. for two lots in an A zone.
Chairman, members of the commission, Raymond Rizzio, happy to be before you tonight representing Alfonso Camarada with regard to the property at 300 and 306 Quincy Street. This is pretty straightforward, simple 2-lot subdivision. And I'll explain basically how we're getting here. This basically there's 2 lots subdivided back in the 1952 subdivision, which I'll give you a copy of the map.
Why don't you just give us a stack, and we'll take one and pass it? No.
I'm good at that, though.
I don't know why everybody insists on doing that. It's just,
Sure we all
I know.
Back back in 1952, this property was subdivided into two lots. The lot lines subsequently moved around a little bit over the years, and the town has taxed the property basically as two lots. There's 300 and 306 Quincy Street. They're two separate tax parcels. What's happened, though, is you note that in 1952, we don't qualify for a free cut. What had happened was the property owner built a house in 53, he built over the property line. By building over the property line, in effect, and then subsequently later, the town passed a regulation that needs 75 feet on a little road. This is a paper street. This is still a public street, but it's a paper street. Therefore, this lot becomes non-conforming. Therefore, since he built over the property line, there's a merger, hence 52 map, merged lots. We end up without having a free cut or being able to respect our original subdivision and then back and forth in front of you with almost really a re-subdivision application. So we're back before you tonight to get a subdivision of the two lots, or basically to acknowledge the line that was created in 52 and then create these two lots. They're both good-sized lots. They well exceed the 9,375. They're both in excess of 10,000 square feet. The lots exceed the square required to be 75. These lots are both in excess of 80 feet. One of the also nice things here, keep in mind that if any members of the public are here, there's no intention to connect, and the town has stated there will be no connection of Quincy Street through to the Quincy Street on the other side. If you've driven down the street, you'll notice there's a fence that runs along the basically along the property. What we have proposed is basically a short extension of about another 75, maybe 60 feet, and to remain an unimproved portion of Quincy Street. However, what is nice, there'll be a sidewalk that will be incorporated and added along the property line, in the sidewalk, up to where there's a opening in the fence. If you notice, there's an opening in the fence to the other side of Quincy Street. The sidewalk is designed to connect that road. Town engineer had some minor conditions, of which we will agree to accept all of them. If you want, I can take them through them. I think Jim has them in the record. But none of them are problematic, and also basically deal with specific issues with regard to getting our building permits and our recording of our subdivision application.
What's the
very technical in nature?
Minimum frontage in the zone under the new regulations? The minimum frontage on public street?
75.
75, right, so, and you've got 85 and 80.
80 and 85, 82 and 85, something. So.
And the extension of Quincy Street is that the street in front of lot number 1 exists, but it's not improved?
Correct. Right now, if you drive down Quincy Street, it ends right on the corner of Fox. And you basically make a left there. There's almost like a path. So what will end up happening is we will extend it about 60 feet, make a T so that you can have a turnaround, and then leave. So there'll be the town did not request a cul-de-sac. They liked just this minor extension, and they did not want the streets connecting. No one wanted this to become a through street.
So, it's a dead end.
Correct. It's an extension of the dead end, in effect.
But it's not a dead end because you make a left on Fox Street. So it's not a dead end.
Well, Quincy Street ends at the end of the unimproved portion of Quincy Street.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a dead end is a street which terminates and in which you need to turn around to exit. Quincy Street is not a dead end there. You make a left onto Fox. Right?
Correct.
So the extension of Quincy Street.
Make a left on Fox.
I'm sorry, correct. You come down to Quincy, you make a left on
Correct.
Fox. There's a left-hand turn there.
So the application and the lots are 100% in accordance with the regulations. The house will be torn down and 2 new houses will be built there. and the pool will be taken out. There's no traffic issues, no additional traffic that's going to create any hazardous, no sightline issues. Question?
You'll have an opportunity to speak. It's not appropriate for you to just kind of shout out things as they come to your mind.
Can I?
Thanks.
Quick question.
Commissioner Canelli?
Yes.
Just on those technical points, I see that in the letter provided, or the information provided us from the town engineer.
Correct.
A hydrodynamic separator should be included in the design. It has been included?
There were two, did you get the vote?
Yeah, it says here, a review of the drainage report indicates stormwater attenuation has been provided, so you did do that
we'll
for up to
agree-
the 100-year storm event.
Right.
And it just adds a hydrodynamic separator should be included to the,
Correct.
in the design, access ports, et cetera, have been provided over the gallery system. The only thing they seem to be asking, or she seems to be saying that you should include, is this hydrodynamic separator. Is that part of the
Correct.
design? It is?
Well, it's...
You know you're going to comply with that.
We'll agree to that as a condition of approval. We just got the comments.
So we would have to add that as a condition.
Correct.
of approval. Okay,
No-
thanks.
No issue. In fact, the comments mentioned in the letter from Laura Pulley to Jim Wendt dated November 7th, items number 2 through 10, we would all agree to be adopted as conditions of approval. Item number 1 was revised by Laura's letter to Jim dated November 17th.
So the chain link fence that's there now is proposed to remain?
Correct. Chain link fence does not belong to us. The chain link fence runs across Quincy Street is the town's, actually, I assume it's the town's chain link fence. It's not ours.
I guess a portion of it, because it runs up the Ramadan family, the Saeed and Ramadan, on the, as I'm looking at the plan to the left, on the south, to the south of the lot. And that's a neighboring property on which the fence.
The fence across Quincy Street is to remain. We can't touch that fence.
Right. That fence continues up the property line,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Does the town maintain the chain link fence over Quincy Street? or-
I don't know.
What's on there now, where the dead end is proposed, in front of lot number 1? It's unimproved,
Correct.
it's town property,
Correct.
so is it just, I haven't been out to visit the site
It's
yet.
unimproved town property.
Does the town mow the lawn?
There's, that's it. Yep.
Okay, I'll go out, I haven't visited the site yet. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Corcoran. Use a microphone, please.
I see on this page, it's right there.
Yes.
There are two, I suppose, proposed or possible houses.
Correct.
I'm curious, both of those houses seem to have large garages on the front of the house facing the street. Is that in character with the other houses on the street?
We're not proposing a house. We're just we have to show that a house
I know.
can be built on the lot and that the lot, so we have, whether it'll be a side garage or a garage in front, we haven't committed to any of those things. All we're doing is we have 2 legal lots. We're reestablishing a lot line that was established in 1952, merged because of a building over the line, and now have the right to come back in and just reestablish the lot line, provided we take down the house.
Right.
But this is not an application for any specific design of a house.
I have another question.
Yep, go ahead.
I mean, just in general, there is some thought that the way to create a community feeling is to make sure that streets are connected. What is the reasoning here for not wanting this connected?
First of all, the town, we passed this design by the town engineer. I don't know, Mr. Wendt, Mr. Devanshi can can discuss it, but I don't think I think you end up with a lot more traffic as a cut-through street than you do as just extending it the 60 feet to accommodate what that lot would be entitled to.
Okay.
And that,
The idea would not to be create additional traffic that would occur to the neighborhood. You basically have this one home, and that's one additional home is what you would have.
and the applicant is proposing to pay for the improvement to the public street, and then the public street would be maintained by the town?
Just, yes, correct. Pretty straightforward.
Anyone else? No? All right. Anyone?
Thank you. We respectfully request this commission grant this application. It complies with all your standards, and we would expressly request that the commission condition the approval based on the, so that we don't have to go back and forth, items number 2 through 10 in Laura Pulley's letter dated November 7th to Jim Went, as modified by the November 17th letter to Jim Went. And I think that would cover everything.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Yes. Please, come to the podium. Thanks. No time limit. You can just keep your comments germane. Just state your name and address.
Sure. So, good evening. Jason Graff. I live at 384 Roland Road, which is pretty much on the corner right near Quincy Street there. And I can see the rear of the property from my property as well. So I think our major concern in looking at, we obviously don't know what type of building they're going to put on the property or either of the two properties once they're subdivided. So our concern is really since the 50s when that property was merged, I think, and a single home was put there, that area has changed quite a bit. The homes in that area have built up. It is a much more affluent area than it was maybe prior to that. And so there is some concern about the type of property that will be put in that area, the size of the homes that will be put in that area relative to what is in that area, and also really the style of the home that's put in that area to to his point earlier. So our concern is really that, one, it will degrade the house value in that area, potentially, depending on what they're looking to put in that space. Two, it is known that in the area a little farther south, about a mile down closer to the beach, that's primarily where college students live. And so one thing that we are concerned with is that any smaller homes, single-family homes that are put in that area, or any smaller duplexes that might be tried to be put in that area would end up as rental properties for potential college students in the area. It is not an area that is really leaning toward that. There are a number of new families in that area. I personally have a 6-month-old in the area as well. So we're concerned with those types of parties being in the area, those types of residents being in the area. It is really not fit for that type of thing. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Ed Humiston, 25 Fox Street. I'm a couple doors away from this piece of property. I share the exact same feelings of this gentleman in front of me. I've lived in that neighborhood for about 27 years now, and when I moved in, it was appropriate lots and appropriate size homes. And I understand with the flooding and the compliance, we need to take different steps to keep everybody safe. But we're starting to see some really big houses on some lots, and it looks kind of strange down in the area. And everybody's getting a little jammed in. And I guess my concern is starting now to take these lots, we're running out of space and what they can do with the homes. My concern is taking these lots now and cutting them in half and allowing more homes to come in. And it brings in more traffic and things like that, along with the type of homes that are coming into the space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Charles Hope. I reside at 272 Quincy Street, which is directly next door to the left or to the right facing. My concern, number one, is the property that is currently existing there. From what I understand looking at the plot plan on 272 Quincy Street, the 300 Quincy Street property must have had a variance at some point because the existing garage right now, from what I can see, is only 5 feet off the property line. My concern is if this gentleman looks to tear this house down and put on 2 houses, in the event the structure that's standing there now is demolished, would the new structure being built automatically default back to the original offset from the property line of 8 feet, not 5 feet?
No, I mean, it's generally not appropriate for us to get into a back in question and answer session, but if they demolish the house and they subdivide and it's approved, then the new buildings that are to be then approved must comply with existing regulations.
Okay, that's my concern, because it'll be close to my house.
Right.
Also, of course, I have a current concern regarding traffic, and, because as you can see on the plans, that Quincy Street does end there. I'm not sure what they're talking about in their plans of what they're doing regarding developing that empty lot as far as how they're going to enter this 300 Quincy Street in regards to now 2 homes being there and where the driveway is going to be in regards to my property on 272 Quincy Street. That's my concerns. Also, because we don't know what type of building they're looking to put on the structure, of course, duplexes would be of concern to me. Not having 2 single-family homes, they're now having 4 families living on this half-acre lot, so those are my concerns.
And to break my rule yet again, duplexes are not allowed in the A zone.
Okay.
So, again...
I know they're up and down Fox Street, I don't know if that comes all the way up too.
If the subdivision was to be approved, then they would have to comply with the regulations for the zone.
Okay.
And duplex would not be a permitted use.
Okay, thank you.
Yes? I'm doing your job for you, Attorney Rizzi.
Hi, I'm Noel Nickel. I live at 381 Roland. I'm across the street from Jason. I just want to echo all of his concerns regarding the property. We're finding that the area is getting quite jammed up now. Along with the concerns of this gentleman, we've already got really, really big homes on very, very small parcels of property, and it's starting to look kind of crazy. To subdivide it again and then put 2 pieces of property on even smaller lots, it just seems like the area is getting kind of overdeveloped. And then again, there's also concern with us and a lot of other young families in the area that whatever goes in is in keeping with character of the community, and that we don't have kind of college students moving into maybe a rental situation. We've had situations with college students near the end of Roland Road, coming up into kind of the higher area and making all sorts of noise in the middle of the night, and having to have the police come in the middle of the night, and it's no fun. So we just want to make sure that doesn't happen with this piece of property. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on this? No? Attorney Rizzi?
I'd like to say rebuttal.
And I wasn't doing your job for you.
I know.
I was just speaking of the regulations.
Basically, I'd like to say, they call it rebuttal, but there's really not much to rebut. I think we're 100% in accordance with the regulations. We have conditions that will address, that this commission can impose, that'll address all the engineering department's concerns. The houses will be torn down, and tearing the house down and any structure that violates will respect all of the setbacks, and you have the opportunity to once again create a FEMA compliant homes, and all of the application is consistent with your subdivision regulations. It's not really a special permit application, it's a straight subdivision. And as long as we're compliant, it's typically, I don't see, there's no traffic concern, there's no traffic-related issues, there certainly were no traffic-related issues or amount of traffic. We're not, I think, even not being a traffic engineer, I could say this additional house will not change the level of service on Quincy Street. And for all those reasons, I respectfully request this commission grant this application 100% in accordance with your regulations. Thank you.
I'll close the hearing on this item, and I'll adjourn the meeting.